What old Mr. Partridge said did not mean much to me until I began to think about my own numerous failures to make as much money as I ought to, when I was so right on the general market. The more I studied, the more I realized how wise that old chap was. He had evidently suffered from the same defect in his young days, and knew his own human weaknesses. He would not lay himself open to a temptation that experience had taught him was hard to resist, and had always proved expensive to him, as it was to me. I think it was a long step forward in my trading education when I realized at last that when old Mr. Partridge kept on telling the other customers, well, you know this is a bull market, he really meant to tell them that the big money was not in the individual fluctuations, but in the main movements. That is, not in reading the tape, but in sizing up the entire market and its trend. And right here, let me say one thing. After spending many years in Wall Street and after making and losing millions of dollars, I want to tell you this. It never was my thinking that made the big money for me. It always was my sitting. Got that? My sitting tight. It is no trick at all to be right on the market. You always find lots of early bulls in bull markets and early bears in bear markets. I've known many men who were right at exactly the right time and began buying and selling stocks when prices were at the very level which should show the greatest profit. And their experience invariably matched mine. That is, they made no real money out of it. Men who can both be right and sit tight are uncommon. I found it one of the hardest things to learn. But it is only after a stock operator has firmly grasped this that he can make big money. It is literally true that millions come easier to a trader after he knows how to trade than hundreds did in the days of his ignorance. The reason is that a man may see straight and clearly and yet become impatient or doubtful when the market takes its time about doing as he figured it must do. That is why so many men in Wall Street who are not at all in the sucker class, not even in the third grade, nevertheless lose money. The market does not beat them. They beat themselves. Because though they have brains, they cannot sit tight. Old Turkey was dead right in doing and saying what he did. He had not only the courage of his convictions, but the intelligent patience to sit tight. Disregarding the big swing and trying to jump in and out was fatal to me. Nobody can catch all the fluctuations. In a bull market, your game is to buy and hold until you believe that the bull market is near its end. To do this, you must study general conditions and not tips or special factors affecting individual stocks. Then get out of all your stocks. Get out for keeps. Wait until you see, or if you prefer, until you think you see the turn of the market, the beginning of a reversal of general conditions. You have to use your brains and your vision to do this. Otherwise, my advice would be as idiotic as to tell you to buy cheap and sell dear. One of the most helpful things that anybody can learn is to give up trying to catch the last eighth or the first. These two are the most expensive eighths in the world. They have cost stock traders, in the aggregate, even millions of dollars to build a concrete highway across the continent. Another thing I noticed in studying my plays in Fullerton's office after I began to trade less unintelligently was that my initial operations seldom showed me a loss. That naturally made me decide to start big. It gave me confidence in my own judgment before I allowed it to be vitiated by the advice of others, or even by my own impatience at times. Without faith in his own judgment, no man can go very far in this game. That is about all I have learned to study general conditions, to take a position and to stick to it. I can wait without a twinge of impatience. I can see a setback without being shaken, knowing that it is only temporary. I have been short 100,000 shares, and I have seen a big rally coming. I have figured correctly that such a rally as I felt was inevitable, and even wholesome, would make a difference of $1 million in my paper profits. And I nevertheless have stood pat and seen half my paper profit wiped out, without once considering the advisability of covering my shorts to put them out again on the rally. I knew that if I did, I might lose my position, and with it the certainty of a big killing. It is the big swing that makes the big money for you. If I learned all this so slowly, it was because I learned by my mistakes, and some time always elapses between making a mistake and realizing it.